So, they finally started digging, didn't they? The ones trying to piece together what really happened with you. The ones thinking they could reconstruct your story from old whispers, social cues, and memories of the past. And here's something that should make you smirk: when no one's watching, nobody wanted to speak. Not a single person. They reached out to the friends who betrayed you, the lovers who left cracks in your heart, the family who walked away when they should have stayed, the co-workers who tried to crush you quietly, and everyone else who assumed they'd broken you. And what did they get? Nervous laughs, short excuses, awkward silences, and then the same three words repeated like a quiet warning etched in stone. Good luck, you're gonna need it. Pause for a moment, think about it. The people who once made you feel small, who treated you like disposable noise, who smiled when you stumbled, they suddenly freeze when your name comes up. They sense a shift they can't place. The air around them changes. They realize too late that the person they assumed was fragile didn't shatter. You weren't just standing again. You had transformed. See, revenge is messy, loud, predictable, but quiet transformation. That's the kind that changes the game before anyone even knows a move has been made. They thought they had you figured out, weak because you cried, defeated because you went silent, finished because you stopped responding to their chaos. But the truth is, you weren't breaking down, you were learning. Every insult, every betrayal, every disappointment became a blueprint for strength. You took each scar and used it as fuel. Each heartbreak became a teacher. Each isolation became an incubator for power. When people finally tried to uncover the truth about you, they weren't prepared for the answers, or the lack of them, because nobody wanted to speak, not out of loyalty, not out of respect, but out of fear. Fear of the person you became. Fear of confronting the reflection of their own weakness. Fear of admitting that the person they tried to break had become someone untouchable. Here's how it went down. Someone calls an old friend, someone sends a text. Hey, what happened with them? Can you explain? And the response is always the same. Hesitation, avoidance, then finally, words that slice sharper than any insult. Good luck, you're gonna need it. That's not casual, that's a quiet confession. They admit, without saying it directly, that they have no idea what you're capable of now, and they are terrified to find out. You see, you didn't fight back. You didn't post about it. You didn't confront anyone publicly. You didn't make a show of revenge. You just became different, sharper, quieter, heavier in presence, and that, my friend, is far more terrifying than any scream, any insult, any dramatic retaliation could ever be. People wanted a story they could control. A version of events that made them look clever and you look fragile. But you gave them no story. You gave them only the quiet truth. You survived, you adapted, you grew. And in doing so, you rewrote the rules without ever making a sound. Now imagine the people who hurt you hearing your name. Their stomach tightens, hands tremble, voices falter. Not because of what you did to them, not because you got even, but because of who you became. They thought they knew the person they were breaking. They didn't. And now, even the thought of you makes them uneasy. This is the secret they'll never say out loud. You weren't defeated. You weren't broken. You weren't waiting for anyone to save you. You were building yourself silently, meticulously, from the inside out. And now your presence alone speaks volumes. It whispers, I survived your chaos, I learned from your cruelty, and I turned it into a power you can't touch. And every single time someone asks about you, the answer is the same: silence. Nervous glances, a few cautious words. Good luck, you're gonna need it. That's all they can offer, because they finally understand you are untouchable, not because of revenge, not because of anger, but because of quiet, relentless transformation. And that, my friend, is the ultimate defeat for anyone who ever underestimated you. Now let's break down what really happens when someone tries to track you, when they think they can find a crack in your armor. They dig through old friends, they ask about mutual connections, they text the people who used to share secrets with you. They try to map you out, hoping to see the person they once thought they knew. And every time they hit a wall, it isn't walls made of bricks or passwords or locked doors. No, it's something far stronger: your transformation. You've changed the rules of engagement without saying a word. You're moving through life with a clarity that leaves no openings for their old tricks, their gossip, their manipulations. And that, my friend, drives them absolutely insane. They're used to being able to place you, to predict your reaction, to know your weaknesses. Now, You're undefined, untraceable, and that absence of control terrifies them more than confrontation ever could. They want a story they can tell, a version they can manipulate, a narrative where they stay in power and you stay small. But you don't give them that. You've stripped them of the script, left them in the uncomfortable space of uncertainty. They reach out hoping someone will answer for you, hoping someone will offer a glimpse, a hint. And what do they get? Silence, hesitation, excuses, and that chilling repetition. Good luck. You're going to need it. That's the most honest statement they can give. They admit, without saying a word about themselves, that they no longer understand you, that the person they thought they could control, the person they assumed would crumble, has surpassed all their calculations. They didn't see the work you were putting in behind closed doors. They didn't witness the rebuilding of your spirit, the sharpening of your mind, the strengthening of your presence. They only know the result, and it terrifies them. Here's the beauty: you didn't need to explain, justify, or dramatize your growth. You didn't need to announce it, broadcast it, or seek validation. Your existence alone does the talking. Every time they try to find a way to diminish you, they hit an invisible shield, a quiet barrier that tells them they were wrong, that the person they underestimated is now operating on an entirely different level. Think about what that means. They want a victim. They want someone they can label, someone they can place in a category they can understand. They want someone they can predict, manipulate, or scare. But you're unpredictable. You're evolved. You've turned the tables without even making a move they could see. And every attempt they make to understand you, to control you, only reinforces the fact that they were outplayed. The ones who hurt you, the ones who abandoned you, the ones who doubted you. They now carry a quiet panic every time your name surfaces. Not rage, not anger, not revenge. Those are loud and they can handle loud. No. This is the subtle kind of fear. The kind that sits in the pit of their stomach and doesn't leave. The kind that creeps in at night and refuses to let them sleep. The kind that whispers, "I underestimated them. I didn't see what they were capable of. And now I can't predict what comes next." Let's be honest, they never wanted you to grow. They wanted you to stay small. They wanted your anger, your pain, your frustration, your tears to fuel their sense of superiority. But you turned it into something else. You turned it into wisdom, into power, into presence. You took the energy they tried to use against you and transformed it into something that lifts you above them, far beyond their reach. And here's the most beautiful part. You don't need to engage. You don't need to respond to their messages, their inquiries, their attempts to check up on you. You just live, you thrive. And that simple act, that quiet, confident movement through your life is the ultimate message. Every time they think they might get an answer, they find nothing. Every time they hope to unsettle you, you remain unshaken. Every time they want closure, you give them none, and that emptiness haunts them far more than confrontation ever could. Now think about this. All their calculations, their manipulations, their predictions, they were based on the old version of you, the one they thought they could understand. And that person is gone. Every question they ask, every attempt to find a story, only reminds them of their failure. They see your calm, your confidence, your self-possession, and they know they were wrong, and they can't fix it. They can't control it. They can't reach it. And that is exactly the point. You didn't just survive. You redefined yourself. You didn't just walk away. You rose. You didn't just ignore them. You became untouchable, untraceable, undeniable. And every time someone asks about you, every attempt to reach for the past, every silent reaction from someone who once hurt you, it confirms the truth they refused to speak. They lost control. They lost power. They lost the story. And you've gained everything that matters. Now let's take a deeper look at what really happens in the aftermath. What they feel when they realize you aren't the person they thought you were. They expected anger, tears, chaos. They imagined you fighting back, losing control, needing their approval even in your pain. But what they got instead was nothing they could categorize. Silence, calm, strength, and that is worse than any fight. See, fighting is visible. They can respond, defend, manipulate. They can spin it, twist it, replay it. Chaos is loud, messy, something they can track. But quiet power, that is unknowable. That is untouchable. That is terrifying. They thought they broke you. They thought they buried you. They expected a reaction they could predict, a version of you they could manipulate. And instead, what they find is someone living beyond their understanding, someone moving forward while they scramble in confusion, trying to catch up. When people ask about you now, they feel a shift in the air, a subtle tension, almost imperceptible, but it tells them everything. They can sense it even before a word is said. They feel the weight of what they lost, the rare person they underestimated, the force they thought would fall apart, the mind and heart they assumed would be small. Every look they give you now, every mention of your name in conversation, carries a hint of hesitation, a flicker of fear, a silent acknowledgement that they misjudged you. And this isn't about revenge. This isn't about proving them wrong. No, revenge is loud, revenge is temporary. Revenge feeds the ego, gives them something to push back against. What you did, you transcended that. You took the very energy they used to hurt you, the very attempts to diminish you, and you transformed it into a quiet strength that doesn't need a response. You became impossible to engage in the way they wanted. You became a living testament to their miscalculation, a walking, breathing reminder that their attempts to control you failed spectacularly. They try to understand you by talking to others, hoping someone will fill in the gaps, hoping someone will validate their assumptions. And what do they get? Hesitation, nervous laughter, avoidance. I don't really want to say, they might hear. Just good luck. And those words, seemingly casual, carry a weight far heavier than any argument could, because they are an unspoken admission. I have no idea who they have become, and I don't want to find out. Think about the people who tried to trap you in the past, the friends who lied, the lovers who betrayed, the bosses who doubted, the family who abandoned. Every one of them, when confronted, now freezes. Not because you confronted them, not because you chased them down, no. Because the quiet power you cultivated leaves them exposed. Their attempts to hurt you have become irrelevant. Their influence has vanished, and they are left staring at the result of their own misjudgment, someone stronger, sharper, and untouchable. And let's get even more precise. They are haunted not by revenge, but by absence. You didn't yell. You didn't seek acknowledgement. You didn't react in ways that could be dissected or debated. You simply evolved beyond their reach. That absence, the lack of drama, the lack of need, the lack of proof that they mattered, does what confrontation never could. It forces them to face their failure, their own limitations, their own inability to predict or control what you have become. The moments that haunt them are quiet ones. They see a post, a photo, a mention of your name. They think, they should be broken. They should be reacting. They should need me. But there is nothing to measure against. There is nothing to claim. And that emptiness, that silence, that unshakable confidence, they can't handle it. They weren't prepared for it. They weren't ready for a power that moves without need, that exists without validation, that thrives without their interference. This is why, good luck, you'll need it, carries such terror. It is not casual. It is not a throwaway comment. It is an unintentional confession that they no longer understand you, that the person they tried to destroy has moved beyond them, that you are now untouchable. Every time they think of you, every time someone asks them about you, that phrase echoes in their minds. It is the only acknowledgement they can offer, because everything else would reveal too much, that their pride was misplaced, that their manipulation failed, that they underestimated someone they once thought powerless. And here's the most important truth: you didn't become untouchable by proving them wrong. You became untouchable by becoming yourself, by living, growing, and transforming without them, by taking the energy they tried to use against you and channeling it into strength, wisdom, and presence, by existing on a level where their attempts to measure, track, or influence you are irrelevant. That is a power they cannot comprehend, and it is permanent. They are now trapped by their own misjudgment. Every time they think of you, they feel the weight of their mistake. Every time they try to reconstruct your story from scraps, they hit dead ends. Every effort to track or question your history ends in a reminder. You are not the person they knew, not the person they tried to break. You are something else entirely, something unstoppable, something untouchable. And that knowledge, even if unspoken, haunts them endlessly. Now we reach the point that truly terrifies them, the part they cannot comprehend, the part they cannot control. You are no longer present in their story, not because you left in anger, not because you sought revenge, but because you moved beyond their reach entirely. Every door they hoped you'd knock on has been permanently closed. Every bridge they expected you to cross has been burned not in malice, but in deliberate self-preservation. And that absence, that quiet departure from their world, is far more devastating than any confrontation could ever be. They keep hoping, though, don't they? Hoping that maybe one day you'll stumble, that maybe one day you'll show vulnerability, that maybe one day you'll be the person they think you are. But you don't. You won't, because you have learned the most powerful lesson they never could, that some doors, once closed, should stay closed. Some people, once removed from your life, should remain gone. Some chapters, once ended, are never meant to be reopened. And it is in this knowledge, this unshakable certainty, that your untouchable strength lies. They search for you in quiet ways. They ask mutual friends, scroll through social media, drop subtle inquiries disguised as casual curiosity. But every attempt meets the same wall. Nothing. No posts, no reactions, no explanations. Just a life lived fully, loudly in its own way, yet entirely out of their reach. And that silence, that absence of validation, drives them insane, because they are accustomed to influence, accustomed to control, accustomed to being able to manipulate every outcome. But now they have nothing. Every effort to find a crack, every attempt to provoke a reaction comes back empty. And that emptiness is a lesson they will never forget. Consider the people who once thought they controlled you, the friends who lied, the lovers who betrayed, the family who abandoned, the colleagues who dismissed. They expected chaos, drama, weakness, and instead they find calm, confidence, and clarity. Every step you take, every word you speak, every decision you make reminds them of one undeniable fact. They failed, they miscalculated, they underestimated. And now their only response is fear, hesitation, and the faint hope that you remain unaware of them entirely, which you are. And this is why good luck, you'll need it, is so potent. It is their unspoken acknowledgement that they no longer understand who you are, that the person they tried to break has transformed into something they cannot define, cannot touch, cannot manipulate. They see the fire within you and recognize that their attempts to extinguish it have only made it burn brighter, fiercer, untouchable. Every glance they give you now carries a silent question. Who are you really? And how did I not see this before? Let's be clear, you didn't achieve this by fighting them, by confronting them, or by seeking revenge. You achieved this by becoming yourself, by taking the energy they tried to use against you and transforming it into self-mastery, clarity, and strength. By existing on a level where their judgments, their manipulations, and their opinions cannot reach you. You became untouchable not through anger or malice, but through growth, self-respect, and relentless self-evolution. And here is the final truth they cannot face: you are gone, and you will not return. Not to argue, not to explain, not to fix the past. You are gone, and in your absence lies your ultimate power. They can't call you, can't corner you, can't force a reaction. They are left with the consequences of their own actions, haunted by the knowledge that they helped create someone extraordinary and lost the chance to be part of it. That is the victory they cannot overcome. And you walk forward free, free from their influence, free from their judgment, free from the weight of expectation. Every success, every quiet moment of peace, every choice made without their interference is a reminder that you are untouchable, you are unbreakable, you are unforgettable. And the best part, they are aware of it, they feel it, they sense it, but they cannot reach it, cannot define it, cannot control it. And that knowledge, that permanent shift in power, is your ultimate triumph. So when someone asks about you, when someone tries to uncover your story, the answer is always the same: nothing they can say, nothing they can reveal, nothing they can do can touch what you have become. They are left with whispers, nervous glances, and the faint memory of underestimating someone who has grown beyond them entirely. That is the real lesson. That is the power of being untouchable. That is the victory of rising beyond anyone's expectation and never looking back. You don't need to explain. You don't need to prove anything. You simply exist in your power, your clarity, your growth. And every moment of their silence, every hesitant glance, every whispered warning from them is proof of one undeniable fact: you won. Not because you fought, not because you shouted, not because you got revenge, but because you rose. And rising is permanent, rising is undeniable, rising is untouchable.